Assalamualaikum and very good morning to my lecturers, Sir Faiz, and all my classmates. So today we are going to be presenting about the collapse of Barings Bank. So first of all, I would like to introduce my group's member, Nur Akmalunisa binti Muhammad Rashid, Nur Amira Fatih binti Nur Azmi, and Nur Ain binti Malik. Okay, so now I will explain about the history of Barings Bank. Barings Bank was a United Kingdom institution with worldwide reach. Even the Queen of Elizabeth had an account there. In 1989, Nick was hired at Barings, where he was quickly promoted to the trading floor and appointed manager in Singapore. He also an aggressive trader that made large profits in speculative trading. Fast forward in 1992, a new Barings employee suffered a small loss on his watch. Leeson did not wish to lose his reputation or his job, so he hid all the losses in an area account. Leeson attempted to make back the loss through the trading, but this led to even bigger losses, which again were hidden in that area account. Leeson also took out a short term, which highly leveraged bet on Nikkei index in Japan, but at the same time a severe earthquake in Japan sent the index plummeting, and his loss was so huge that he could not longer hide it. And Barings, a 233-year-old bank collapsed overnight. That Leeson fled to Malaysia, Thailand, and finally to Germany, where he was arrested to Singapore. He pled guilty to 2 counts of deceiving bank auditor and cheating the CIMAX. Leeson was sentenced to 6.5 years of prison in Singapore. Okay, for the first question, how was loss aversion apparent in Nick Leeson's conduct, and explain. The loss aversion evident in Nick Leeson's action when he can risk his reputation for infallibility and his work. He hid all the losses in an area account where actually they were not appropriate because he could report all the losses and he insists on doing so. Furthermore, Leeson did not exercise corporate social responsibility in the organization, but there was also no teamwork at all the time. There seems to be lack of segregation between front and back office. Leeson also was forced to retain in charge of both the front and office throughout when he tries to negotiate the losses and the solution with the accounting department. It also lacks of comprehension of the trading activities and the lack of continuing with the client records of the funding given by BFS by Barings in London, and the lack of verification of the false details and information provided by BFS, the shortcomings and accuracies in the reporting of significant exposures to the Bank of England. Next, the system of checks and balance necessary for the effective supervision and handling of a financial institution had failed more severely, because at many levels and in more than one place of the case of BFS Barings, the lack of controls over the office of Singapore, the lack of interest on the part of manager in checking transaction records and internal auditor reports, the number of customers also with large volume of transaction and the optimistic figures that Leeson posted as income made it easier for transfer in order to be approved with many obstacles. Next, for question 2, Judith Ronsley, who worked for Barings Bank and later wrote a book about the Leeson case, about 3 explanations for Leeson's behavior once the losses had started to pile up. First, Leeson's loss aversion stemmed from his fear of failure and humiliation, since he hid all the losses in an area account where they were not appropriate because he could report all the losses, but he insists on hiding that. Management teams have a duty to understand fully the businesses that they manage. Their responsibility for each business activity must be clearly established and communicated. Clear segregation of duties is fundamental to any effective control system in any organization. Relevant internal controls, also including the independent risk of management, must be established for all business activities. Top management and also the audit committee must ensure that significant weaknesses identified to them by internal audit or otherwise are resolved quickly. Second, his ego and greedy behavior were explained by the trading environment in which he operated, which in January 1995, Listen performed a transaction hoping that the Japanese market would not change the next day. However, little did he manage that Asian market would collapse as a result for the earthquake in the Japanese city of Kobe. Listen tried to recover losses through various risky transactions, which end up creating an even larger gap. Listen's worst turn was to try and dig himself out of a hole and make up losses he had hidden in Barings area account, aka by beating Japan's Nikkei 225 would rise after the earthquake. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Ain binti Malik. I will be explaining about question 3. Question 3 stated that Listen explains that he wanted to stop but could not. Based on his and Ronsley's reflections, where do you think the blame primarily lies and why? With Listen individually or with the system within which he operated? In our opinion, the blame primarily lies within Listen individually. This is because the system which he operated is under his control, as he handled the system to run in accordance. But then he loses some money in the system under his control. This can be said that Listen did not handle the system efficiently, because after this problem encountered, he did not make a solution about it. Instead, he continued to run the system in hoping the problems can be solved. Listen also did not want to speak or tell the truth when the problems arisen to the upper managerial level, although he is the leader who leads the system, because he thinks that he will lose his reputation. This is where the ethics comes in, where as a leader, he needs to come up with solutions in order to face and solve the problems. According to Raymond C. Bernhardt, the ethics of business is the ethics of responsibility. The businessman must promise that he will not harm knowingly. So, from this statement, Listen did not have responsibility towards his job, because his action, for not to be honest, for his mistakes, finally makes him fall to the ground and face difficulty in gaining other people's trust in the future. In business ethics, there is code of conduct where it tells what to do and what not to do for the welfare of the society. All businessmen must follow this code of conduct. So, Listen did not follow this code of ethics, where he did actions that are wrongly not for the Barings Bank and its investors. Business ethics also gives protection to social groups. It tells that business ethics give protection to different groups, such as consumers, employees, small businessmen, government, shareholders, creditors, and etc. In this situation, Listen did not practice business ethics, and as the result, it does not give protection to the investors and makes Barings Bank to face huge losses under Listen's control. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Akmalunisa and I'm going to proceed with the next question. So question 4 basically asks if I were in Lizen's position after the initial loss made by the employee, what would I have done and why? So basically, if I were in Lizen's shoes, I would be honest to myself and the organization about the loss made by my employees under my care. I would not falsely record the accounting transaction just to not wanting to lose my reputation. Besides, integrity in work itself should have been considered as a part of the reputation to be maintained, and Lizen did not realize that. He is too focused on personal form of ethical egoism. Ethical egoism is a theory about what we ought to do and how we ought to act. Whereas I believe the wrongful act will bring bad consequences. Moreover, in business, it is important to practice moral and ethical behavior. However, Lizen believes his act can bring a set of good consequences to the organization, despite whether it is being ethically right or wrong. So next is question 5, asking about do I have any trouble owning up to my mistakes that I've made, or do I know anyone did and I need to explain with example. So basically, me personally, I have no trouble owning up the mistakes that I have made. However, I did experience someone else pointing fingers over the mistake they have made during the work. I experienced working in a small manufacturing company under production department. It is quite normal to receive a couple of complaints from customer in a month. The source of problem somehow could be caused by the machining error or human error. There were once the customer complained on the product that was misprocessed. It was a large amount and the company suffered quite a big loss. The leaders ended up blaming each other due to that they were afraid of the action that will be taken upon them, such as receiving warning letter or worse, affect the annual bonus. It was easier to educate everyone on ethic and moral value, yet it was harder to make them practice it. Okay, so last but not least is the conclusion from the whole discussion made in this case study. So first is ethical behavior is defined differently by everyone. It could be both subjectives and objectives. This means everyone could admit that their act is good or they have good intention or it is ethical, but somehow it can be interpreted differently depending on individuals. So yeah, next is every action will have its own consequences. Third, organizational interest should not be overlapped with personal interest. And lastly, being an egocentric can sometimes kill. Like Lizen's, he was too egoistic, and I could say self-centric because he was too afraid to admit his mistakes and loss. However, he forgot that the moment he intended to lie regarding the accounting method, he himself has already lost his reputation. So yeah, that's all from us. Thank you for watching our slides and have a good day. Bye. Assalamualaikum.